Part 2. So, I was talking about the retconning of Marvel, and I don't have visuals of the gods and stuff, but you guys can go Google the gods of Marvel, which are basically the Egyptian, the Greek, and the Scandinavian gods, which were the most powerful gods in Marvel, because Thor was like the god of gods. And then, you'd have Hercules and you have some Egyptian gods. I can't remember their names, but they were also in Marvel. And then outside of the one above all, who was like the supreme ruler of all the universes and all that stuff that oversees everything. He's not a watcher, but he is the main god, as in what we all in our real life would consider the Lord. Now we're leaving him off because under him are the gods in which I speak. Thor is a god. Hercules is a demigod. Let's not get that confused, which is why Thor can beat Hercules, because Hercules is only half god. He's not a whole god. Now, if you talk about people like Ares and all of his sisters and brothers, because I can't give you their names right off the bat because I just had a brain fart, but if you go against with all of them, they're gods on the same line as Thor. Where Hercules, on the other hand, he has godly strength. That's pretty much it. And then if you go into like the Scandinavian gods from Asgard with Odin and everyone else and Heimdall and all those guys, they're all gods, which means they're stronger than Hercules as well. And Hercules and Thor have had a battle once or twice in the Marvel Universe in the comics, if they haven't retconned the shit out of that too. Now, the reason why I brought that up is because at one time, when Marvel used to produce the annuals, Thor was the strongest. Of all the Marvel characters, Thor was the strongest. He picked up 100,000 tons with one hand, where Hulk couldn't do it at all, and Hercules couldn't do it at all. But Thor did it with ease. So like I said, if you're looking into the Marvel Comics movies, there's no way in hell Thanos should be able to mount the floor with Thor. However, that's been done. So the thing is, when you retcon people, the guys who read comic books in my day, from the 60s to the 70s, could tell you better stories than I could tell you about the golden and silver age of comics. In the modern age, I'm behind the 8 ball. But before the modern age, from the 80s to the current 2000s, I was up to speed until 2010 or 2008 when they retconned the shit out of everybody with the unleashing of Onslaught and with Scarlet Witch snapping reality into an alternate whatever the hell it was that she'd done. Now, I'm going to probably make a video about DC doing the same thing, but it was a little different because they had the rebirth in the New 52s. But since this is mostly about Marvel, we're going to slide away from DC. Of course, they've had collaboration comics where Marvel and DC, the best of the best, have fought, and some victories were better than others. Most of my favorite heroes for Marvel didn't win. Now, Namor didn't win against Aquaman. Wolverine did win against Lobo. Hulk beat Superman. Storm and Wonder Woman fought. I think they fought to a draw. I don't really remember. But you can go find all those old comics because they were great. And I lent them to somebody because they were lent to me and they never gave them back. And they're somewhere. But that's alright because I tried to explain it to the person who lent them to me. He said, don't worry about it. So I'm not worried about it. But anyway. That being said, that was like the second edition. The first edition, they had other heroes fight. And I didn't get that, but I got the second edition because I wanted to see what happened. Jubilee lost to Robin, Tim Drake. But anyway, that being said, at the end of it, the two gods fought the heroes from both worlds, etc., etc. So, why is it, if Marvel would at least answer me, or if someone who's a Marvel fan or a Marvel writer could contact me and answer my question on why did they dumb down the gods? Because, okay, I understand in the movie world, you can't give everybody all the powers that they possess because it's a technological miracle to just pull off half the power that they possess. However, in the comics, at one time, until 2010, all the gods in Marvel Comics were like the strongest characters. You didn't have to worry about Odin and them dying. As long as you stayed out of Asgard, you didn't have to deal with the gods. However, Thor went to Earth and protected Asgard, and he had a replacement for Earth known as Thunderstrike, aka Eric Masters. So what happened? What went wrong in Marvel to decide, let's make the gods weaker than the Silver Surfer? Let's make the gods weaker than Galactus. Well, as far as I can remember, Galactus never came to Asgard. Ever. Ever, ever. The Living Tribunal has come to Asgard. And the other things have come to Asgard, but they haven't really tangled with the gods. You know? Which is why I'm like, okay, how does this work? And then when you think about it, the more you think about it, it's not logical. But, because when you think of God, you think of the creator of life, Big Bang and all that, and you would think that nothing would be more powerful than that. And of course, in the Marvel Universe, there's only one real God, which is the one above all. But the other gods, before you even meet the one above all, that's where they go. The Valkyries go to Valhalla, and they go through the time thing or whatever, and they do that. But at the same time, the gods used to be the most powerful figures in Marvel Comics, and no one was stronger than Thor for a very long time. Not to say that Thor hasn't had his ass handed to him, because he has, but at the same time, Thor has been one of those people who has been mega strong, hella strong, and you're going to earn that whooping if you're going to beat Thor. But at the same time, there's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. The gods used to be the strongest figures in Marvel, and now they're not. Now the universal beings are, and people like Galactus and all that. But like I said, Galactus has never tangled with the gods. Now, being that everything has been retconned, and I'm like way behind the 8 ball, I could be wrong now. So every bit of knowledge that I'm giving you happens before 2010. Alright? After 2010, I set aside my comic books, not just because I couldn't afford them, but because they took the X-Men in a direction that I didn't want to go, and so I stopped reading them. And X-Men was like my favorite comic of all the Marvel Universe. Every X title, X-Men, Excalibur, X-Force, X-Factor, X-Terminators, New Mutants, Astonishing X-Men, Wolverine and the X-Men. Yeah, they brought the cartoon to the comic. You know, just like they did the same thing with the Fox cartoons. Anything that was X-Men, anything, I bought it. And then when the humans and the X-Men were having their little issue, and Marvel was trying to write the X-Men out of the universe, or out of the Marvel comics in general, because Fox wouldn't sell Marvel the rights back to the X-Men. So they came up with this little fiasco, X-Men versus Inhumans. Now, hands down, I'm an X-Men fan. I'm not so much of an Inhuman fan. And I know hands down that the majority of the X-Men could beat the living crap out of the Inhumans any day, with the exception of the Inhuman leader, who can't talk, because one word from him can destroy universes. Other than that, you know, I'm an X-Men fan. So, you know, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. In my other video, I touched on the retconning of Sabretooth also, and how he used to be a marauder, because he was never a solo act. He used to be a marauder, and then they gave him a backstory with him and Wolverine knowing each other and making them mortal enemies, blah, blah, blah. Again, that happened after the Inferno saga, because they totally revamped him, and I was like, what the hell did they do to him? Now, I know in Inferno, Mr. Sinister made Sabretooth super huge. He was not that way at first. He was a marauder. He ran with a bunch of misfit mutants that liked causing problems, and they were good at it. That's why it was called the Marauders. And Wolverine has had enemies in groups such as the Marauders, the Nasty Boys, and the Reavers. Now, let me explain that for those who don't know, because I got a little bit off the track. Alright, the Reavers are led by Yuriko, Wolverine's ex-wife, a.k.a. Lady Deathstrike. The Marauders are led by Scalp Hunter, and the Nasty Boys is led by Ruckus. Each one of them have crossed Wolverine's path, and he somehow or another magically pissed them off. Moving on. Now, the Inhumans and the mutants are not gods. Though none of them have personally tangled one-on-one with the gods, or teamed with the gods, you know that the gods were the dominant force in the Marvel Universe. Now, as of lately, in the Marvel Universe, plus in the MCU, the gods don't seem to have the power that the universal entities have. Thor losing your eye to Thanos was inconceivable back in 1985. It was impossible, because Thanos is just a living being from another planet. He's not a god. And you know, Thor is a god, the god of thunder, Thor. Before he started going by Thor, Odin's son. You know, the only people that really ever gave Thor a battle for their money was Thunderstrike and Beta Ray Bill. Now the bad guys, on the other hand, they've also given Thor a run for their money. But Thor has been known to dumb down his powers just to accept the challenge. It was the same incident with Superman and Muhammad Ali, where Superman had to dumb down his powers and not use his superpowers to fight Muhammad Ali to see who was the greatest. Great comic, I don't have it. But anyway, whoever does have it, it's worth a lot of damn money now. Moving back on, the fact that the mutants are like here, the Inhumans were here, the other people were here, the gods were here, and the universal beings was under them, and now it's reversed, and the gods are like down here where the mutants and every other body from Earth is, and then the universal beings are all over the freaking place, and I don't understand, when did it happen? So if someone can answer me when did it happen, these videos will be null and void. Thank you. I'm going to make a part 3 now. Be seeing you.